Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with the team as we continue to tell your story. Now, the forensic report into the death of Parktown Boys High School learner Enock Mpianzi is expected to be released later today. Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi received the report last month. His office says he'll share the findings with the public at the school in Parktown, Johannesburg later today. The report is also expected to shed some light on the circumstances surrounding the death of the 13-year-old learner who drowned whilst on a school camp in January. All right, so our reporter Mahlako Komani is standing by for us at Parktown Boys. Mahlako, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through. So now, finally, this much anticipated report will be released shortly.
Yes, definitely. Good afternoon to you, Balesa, and the viewers at home. You are quite correct that we are expecting the release of this report in a few minutes. We understand that the time was 1800 hours, which is 6 p.m. As you know, you can just see, I'm just going to move out of the shot quickly. As you can just see behind me, the hall is already beginning to fill up with parents. You know, parents are slowly coming in, obviously, given the traffic constraints and that people obviously also have to work. But definitely we are going to get that report. Finally, we know that the MEC had initially had a date to release it sometime last month. That was then changed. He felt that they needed to go into conversation with the Mpianzi family, I suppose, to somewhat get their blessing, and also, you know, just to consult with them, also remembering that the family initially were feeling that they were left out. They had not had any information. So I suppose in an attempt to try and meet their family in terms of their needs as well, considering that indeed this is their child. So we know that a meeting was done with the family today, that the department and their lawyers had briefed the family on the latest on the report. They were earlier also briefed, I think in February it was, where they were given some sort of brief. It was there when it was during that date when we had to cancel, well, this was cancelled, the parents' meeting where the report was expected to be released. But I am joined by the Department of Education in Gauteng spokesperson, Mr. Steve Mabona, and he's just going to shed a little bit of light as to what happened this afternoon with the family when they met with the family, and have they agreed on anything going forward. Mr. Mabona, thank you so much for talking to us. Can you just please tell me, you met with the family today. What came out of that engagement?
Look, it was a positive meeting, very fruitful. It was to update them on what transpired, just to give them a brief, you know, on what transpired from the lawyer's perspective, because they were investigating this process. And we were quite happy. After that, we then met with the SGB at the school. We also met with the senior management of the school, and we are currently in a meeting with the labor unions. And at 6 o'clock, we are ready to then interact with the parents and give them the latest on the report.
And I think because we are here and, you know, there's a report that is being released, perhaps I could just ask, we know that there was an investigation also into the death of Kiamohetso Siboko. What is the latest there, I suppose, without having to feel that one loss is greater than the other?
No, but you'll remember that the Siboko's report or the investigation was actually initiated after this one. Probably it is 2 weeks or a week apart. So we are giving the other law firm an opportunity to finalize their report. Once they are done, they will then present it to the HOD and the MEC, who will then take them through the same process that we undergone, make sure that all the stakeholders are taken through the process before we then release the report. But you know that our preliminary report dictated that we must also suspend the principal there, and that's what we have done. So we are actually waiting for them to finalize the process, and we should be in a position to release it as well.
And I think just before I let you go, because I know you have other colleagues to talk to, but on the issue of suspensions, you know, I think you had said earlier during one of the briefings that you felt that there were more suspensions that were going to follow in terms of this particular matter. And what I just wanted to find out is, have those suspensions been effected? Are we expecting anything like that?
Look, They come with recommendations. I mean, this process comes with recommendations, and the MEC has already indicated during the interaction with all the stakeholders that the recommendations are there. He has, with the HOD, they need to also apply their minds in terms of the implementation, but recommendations are very broad. There's a responsibility that the SGB must take, and there's all other stakeholders that need to take, like for instance, the department must also, take charge in terms of their recommendations as far as their responsibility or the role that they've played in this entire investigation. So that will happen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mabona. And as you've just heard there, Palesa, Mr. Steve Mabona with the Department of Education just telling us that they did indeed have met with the family, and also that they are currently in meeting with SATU, ATU, as well as NAPTOSA. These are teacher unions that are being briefed currently by the law firm that was given the responsibility of investigating this matter, as well as the Education MEC, Mr. Panyaza Lisufi. But we also understand that you would remember that not so long after the Mpianzi drowning happened, we also had that young man that drowned at large school breaker in Magaliesburg, Giamuhetso Siboko. We're also expecting a report coming out of that. But also, I think quite importantly, when we asked him about, we were expecting more suspicions to come out of this, him saying that, people have to take responsibility. I heard him mention the SGB, so it will be quite interesting to find out what type of responsibility, in line with the recommendations by the law firm, will the SGB be having to take, and as well as what is going to happen to the school principal, Mr. Malcolm Williams. We know that he was also suspended. Will we be seeing more suspensions at the end of tonight? And also, I think quite importantly, the reaction of parents. We'll remember that a parents' meeting was called by the department a few weeks ago. That happened at Wits, the Linda Auditorium, where media initially was invited and then they were not invited. It was then where parents felt that they needed space, but it will be the first time that the media, the department and parents are under one roof to get an idea of how our parents feeling at this camp there in Brits, as well as other things that are said to be happening at the school.
All right, Mahlako re a leboha for now. Thank you so much for coming through. As soon as that report is being released, we'll certainly be going back to our SABC News reporter Mahlako Komane live from the Parktown Boys High School, where that much anticipated report into the death of Enock Mpianzi is expected to be released. Mahlako said that should happen in about 17 minutes time. That's at 6 p.m. tonight. So we'll take you back to that when it happens. Peter?